Hey guys, it's me, Baaase here, and I'm back. In another episode of Everlasting Summer. Oh wait, Love, Money, and Rock and Roll. From the creators of Everlasting Summer. That's how I was supposed to say it. Last time, we went to a bar. We skipped school. Went to a bar. No. We skipped class. Saw Ellie Summer playing guitar. Skipped school, went to a bar, got beat up by the bullies that we beat up the day before. Then we met our ex, Catherine, I think, Kathy? Yeah. And we got a phone call from that psycho that also left us the message. He was talking in Russian this time, saying, "We are in danger." So how are we in danger? Why are we in danger? And where are we in danger? That's what we're gonna find out this time. I woke up late. It was already past noon. The house was quiet. Too quiet, really. I'd miss school again. Oh well, to hell with it. After all, my life was on the line now. Or was I being overly dramatic? I walked into the kitchen and stood there in stupor. My head felt heavy. Thoughts jumped together. I wanted to sleep a little longer, maybe just another 10 hours. A glass of cold water helped bring me to my senses. Sorry, I had to yawn. I looked at myself in the mirror. Oddly enough, the black eye was gone. I checked all the doors and windows. They were locked securely, the way I had left them the night before. I found a note from Himitsu in the hall. I was worried, blah blah. We'll come by after school more, blah blah blah. Thank you, but no thank you. This must have been the first time in my 18 years of alive I've faced a situation like this. The move to Japan at an early age, the challenges of adaptation, the deaths of my parent, all these had been tough, but they seemed more like fate than something acting against me. This time was different. Something was threatening me directly. Someone was warning, cautioning me, sincerely or not. But who could possibly be interested in me? Then it hit me. It was improbable that I personally would be of interest, but it might be about my parents. As they told, "Oh, it's something to do with your dad." This must have been something to do with me. I don't know. I think I just crossed my Adam's apple and I feel bad. They had immigrated from the USSR after all. They worked for the Kobayashi Corporation. And the voice on the phone yesterday had been speaking Russian. The sound was altered, sure, but it was clearly unaccented. I didn't know exactly what my parents were working on, but it might have been something serious. Yeah, I guess so. You. Oh, brother. A lump formed in my throat. Work. Serious enough to kill for? Probably. And kill your children for. That's the most scary part. Sorry, I'm taking my medicine. I forgot to do it earlier. Ah, very nice. Very nice. I am medicated again. So. I'm doing this in the morning. A lump formed in my throat. Work serious enough to kill for. The most frustrating thing was that I knew nothing about it. Except, who was going to believe me? I had to act fast. I pulled out my dad's old address book and scanned through it for numbers of his co-workers. A few I'd met, some I'd heard of. In any case, anything was better than sitting and waiting. Good afternoon. My name is Nikolai Anoki, and no luck with the first dozen numbers. Some were no longer at their old jobs. Others didn't pick up. One had even passed away. I turned the page. There was a number written in my father's firm, even hand, and underneath a firm even hand, and underneath its name, Ichinose-san. Ichinose. I'd heard that last name before. Long dial tone. 1, 2. After 10, I was about to hang up when a familiar elderly voice said on the other end, "Hello, At that point, I remembered Ichinose-san used to visit frequently when I was younger. An ever polite, affable, good-natured old gentleman. He used to bring me candy and ask about school and my hobbies. Then he and Dad would sit together in the garden for long stretches of time, and with an air of importance do a lot of smoking and talking. Good afternoon. My name is Nikolai Anokin and I...
Good, Nikolai-kun.
He interrupted.
Long time no see. How are you?
Fine. I gave a stock answer. Was I supposed to dump everything at once on him? Everything that had happened to me in the last few days?
I'm sorry about your parents.
The voice in the receiver turned somber. I vaguely recalled seeing Ichinose-san at the funeral. Thank you. Actually, that's why I'm calling. I mean, not literally, of course. For a moment, I remained silent. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous. Could you please tell me about my father's work? I know he worked as an engineer, but what exactly did he work on?
Has something happened? Had a sudden interest, and now of all times.
To tell the truth, something has happened, but it's not important.
Why not? Can't you tell me?
Yes, of course I could, but it's just... What reason did I actually have to trust him? Just because he'd been over to our house a couple times, had been nice to me? So are you going to tell me or not? Is that some kind of secret?
Not a secret, no, but it's somewhat complicated.
I get that it's complicated. I'm not a child anymore. I grumbled back.
So what happened?
Some people came by and asked questions about my father, about his work.
Asked about his work, did they?
Ichinose stretched out the words Yeah, I'm not gonna try.
And what exactly did they ask?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't tell them anything because I don't know anything myself.
And how did they question you?
What do you mean?
Well, what was the tone?
I was absolutely certain Ichinose knew far more than he was letting on. What's more, Ichinose seemed apprehensive. Should I be worried?
That's for you to know,
He replied coldly. If I knew anything, I wouldn't be calling you, right?
Nikolai, you shouldn't drag yourself into this.
Why? Do you know something? Tell me. This concerns me too, you know?
No, this does not, in fact, concern you. And if you lay low, everything will be alright. But that's all I'm going to say. Don't call here again.
Short tones follow. Okay, Dad, we didn't get much out of that. You're like, oh shit, bro. This is gonna be bad. Stolen Soviet research, I guess. Everything will be alright. Yeah, right. On the other hand, I could at least thank him for indirectly confirming my suspicions. This was indeed my father. I collected my thoughts and tried to remember everything my father had ever told me about his job. An engineer. What do engineers do? Build stuff, or more accurately, draw up plans? Good. What did a 16-year-old kid care about details like that? Oh. What had mattered to me was that I received my allowance and that all was well at home. I was certain about one thing. My father hadn't been working in conventional construction. Defense, maybe. Had he worked for the military? But what difference did that make? I still didn't know a thing about his actual work. Unless the whole thing was someone's sick joke. The hour hand on the clock moved inexorably towards the... Stop using difficult words that I've never heard before. Inexorably. Towards 3, and I hadn't even eaten breakfast yet. Mitsu would arrive soon. The note made that clear. Enough already. It's not that I haven't heard them. I've never... Yeah, it's that I never heard them. I don't know how the fuck they're pronounced. I've read them. That's it. Enough already. She wasn't my mother. Of course, as I thought that, I felt the sting on my conscience. Still, I absolutely had to get some fresh air. So I went into the bar. I decided to go to my favorite bar for lunch. That's also a very fresh air, I see.
Oh, I need fresh air. Let me go into another house. One that's probably less fresh in there.
Even if it was the site of yesterday's unfortunate incident. The bell above the door rang as I entered. But none of the few patrons present looked my way. I don't know why I said it like that. Only the bartender gave me the usual smile and waved at me. Hey, Collier. I've been seeing you a lot of lately. Not that I don't enjoy your company, but after yesterday... Stopped in front of the bar, not knowing what to say. No, my anger toward him had already passed. After all, people have their own lives and jobs to worry about. Will it be the usual? I've come for lunch. Good. What would you like? What the fuck? I don't know. Give me a steak, I guess. It shall be done. The bartender managed to imitate the Japanese way of addressing guests to near perfection, but he twisted it in his own peculiar way, so he ended up sounding more like an overly hospitable host of a medieval tavern. I sat down at a table and sank into thought. Ah, steak. I could eat steak. Steak? I could eat a steak. The steak turned out well, as expected. The food here was good as the beer. I was lazily picking my teeth with a toothpick when the doorbell rang out pleasantly again, signaling the arrival of a new customer. Standing in the doorway was Michael. That one was one person I'd never expected to see here. So why not? He noticed me and came to sit at my table. A split second later, the bartender appeared beside us and placed the menu in front of Michael. "Friend of yours, Nicola?" he asked in Russian, hideously drawing out my name in a French manner. "Something like that, yes. A classmate," I replied in Japanese. "What does the sir desire?" I couldn't decide whether I was more irritated or amused by his performance.
Just coffee.
Right away. I forgot Michael's name. Holy shit. Timed the bartender before checking up. Is school over?
It is. It didn't show up.
Yeah, let's just say I had some business to take care of. I'd known Michael for 2.5 years. He was from the States, and his parents had also been working in Japan for a while. We were never particularly close, but his seriousness and strange maturity commanded a certain respect. Oh, so if he's from the United States of America, I need to give him another accent. I'll try... let me think. Let me think like a real gamer. Real gamer thinker. I tried to break my neck, that didn't work. You could say he was the perfect opposite of Kyosuke. They say you don't want to get into the details. No, that's not how it should be sounding. I'm from Texas. I take it you don't want to get into the detail. Let's say he's from, I don't know if that's Texas. That's his sound around. That's how it sounds now. Not particularly. Some guys at school have been bragging that they beat someone up yesterday. And? I snarled back, irritated. It was hard to tell with Michael if he was hinting at me or just sharing gossip. You haven't heard about that? No. I see. He kept sipping his coffee, gazing somewhere past me. As uncommunicative as I could be at times, Michael was something else. Was he really comfortable now? So what's going on at school? The usual. And how's Catherine? The question slipped off my tongue of its own accord. I hadn't even thought about her until that moment. Michael set his cup down and stared at me intently. Oh no, we are not acquainted, remember? Alright, back when we were in different classes. He kept looking at me strangely. What? Was there something between the two of you? You probably already heard everything from Kyosuke. But I'm asking you right now. Okay, yes, there used to be something. But that was a long time ago. And now? And now there's nothing. I see. Are you curious because you're from the same country? Wait. So... Catherine was American too? But Catherine doesn't sound that American. It sounds... I don't know, I don't care. I'm just wondering, why did she enroll at this particular school? I don't know. You have to ask her. But now I was sick of this question, even if usually I was the one posting it to her. Posing it to myself. Ah, now I get it, I'm a retard. Have you thought that maybe there's a reason behind it? What difference does it make? What I have or haven't thought? You don't know Catherine. Thinking is wasted on her. Sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. It's nothing to do with you. I just got more important stuff in my mind. Michael kept his voice so calm and level the entire time that it was beginning to annoy me. If he didn't actually care, why ask so many questions? Anyway, this isn't the most pleasant of subjects. Sorry, I didn't realize that the two of you still... He coughed pointedly. That it was an unpleasant topic for you. But he could have guessed. Imagine that. I feel like tossing some bills on the table and walking out, but I had few friends as it was, and this kind of behavior was pretty typical of Michael. Did anyone ask about me at school? Not that I heard. I see. And how are you doing anyway? Not too bad. Except that I have no free time at all. I'm preparing for college admission. College admission? I drew out the words. Where do you want to go? Back to the States, most likely. What, tired of this place? I smirked. It's just that higher education is better there. Okay. Michael calmly responded. His words touched the nerve. Unlike him, I had little choice. And even if I wanted to, the best I could hope for with my grades was a minimum wage job. Our conversation had stalled right out the gates. Well, I think I'll be heading out. See you at school tomorrow. See you, he said in the same level tone. I waved goodbye to the bartender and left. Had the bar been a courtroom, Michael would have been fit for the part of prosecutor to the perfection. Stern, cold, dispassionate, operating only on facts. And what would my chances have been then, seeing how I flew off the handle at the drop of a hat? Yeah. I wandered aimlessly around the city, passing street after street and neighborhood after neighborhood. I found myself in a part of town where I'd never been before. A curious thing. Tokyo was, of course, much larger than my hometown, but back during my childhood, everything seemed huge to me. The apartment, the yard, the kindergarten, the store across the street. Though my mind could comfortably draw comparisons between the tiny place from my childhood and this multi-million person metropolis. I suppose I was always at ease in a crowd of perpetually rushing strangers. Sometimes I walked in the same direction as them, as though in lockstep, and other times I went against the flow. The crowd paid me no attention, accepting me as one of their own. Thank goodness for that. Maybe because of this ability of mine, I noticed someone following me. Sure, it's often the case that strangers happen to be going the same way as you. One turn, two, a crossing wouldn't be a problem. But when you're just wandering around and someone mimics your every move without fail, you know it's no coincidence. I quickened my pace, crossed on red, turned into an alleyway and walked crisply through it. There were two possibilities. Either I was just being paranoid or I'd managed to put some distance between me and him. I pretended to be checking out a TV behind the window of an electronics store. At least 5 minutes passed, but my mysterious pursuer hadn't showed up. It occurred to me that I had finally lost my mind. That called for a sedative or a drink. But I hadn't made it up. I'm sure that someone had been following me. Who and why? That was another question. Maybe I relaxed too early. Was it worth checking again? Yeah, let's try to find the tail. Sounds interesting as fuck, bro. Anyway, it couldn't hurt to try. And if it was a professional shadowing me, then he wouldn't let me bust him so easily twice in a row. So yeah, I agree with that. Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I went into a clothing store and as quickly as I could, I bought a brightly collared windbreaker and a cap after confirming no one was watching me from the street. If you want to hide something, hide it in plain sight. The idea worked in crowds as well. I darted into one of the numerous side streets, threw on the jacket and the hat, tucked the shopping bag behind a pipe and ran into the next street. I stopped around the corner, next to a newsstand, threw the cap low over my face and glanced around me. Sure enough, before long, the now familiar figure appeared in the distance. It made sense. It'd gone down a parallel street instead of following right behind me. I made a half turn, hunched my shoulders, and even crouched slightly so as to appear shorter. My pursuer was looking around frantically, having clearly lost sight of me. Yet he passed right by the newsstand without paying any attention to the guy in the flashy windbreaker. I followed him. The man was middle-aged, dressed in an unseasonably warm trench coat, dark pants, and black shoes. He looked like a typical office worker. He stopped at an intersection, looked around, and sighed loudly. I was just 2 meters behind him. Lost someone? I finally ventured. He turned sharply and gave me a bewildered stare.
No, everything's alright.
Just as quickly, the stranger's expression went black and he prepared to leave. Why were you following me?
Following you? I wasn't following anyone.
He regained his composure in the blink of an eye.
I was supposed to meet someone here. It looks like they aren't going to show up.
That someone, is it me?
Young man.
He looked up and down and continued coldly.
This is the first time I've ever seen you.
Then why follow someone you've never met?
I have to go.
I didn't try to stop him. That would have something else. But damn it, things were going from bad to worse. I'm actually being followed. What the fuck? Did you hear how fucking suspicious he sounded? First the notes, then the calls, the mysteries of my family's past, and now someone trailing me. The one thing that brought relief was that I was still alive. A nervous laugh escaped my lips. Some schoolgirls nearby changed anxious whispers. Enough, it was time to put an end to this. I'd called my grandparents the very next day. Wait! Hey! What? Oh, fuck, what was her name again? She was from Everlasting Summer. I ended up with her, even though that wasn't what I was going for, if you remember. I feel like it was something with an A. She also looks older here. Or maybe that's just because she doesn't have the young pioneer's clothes on. But her face, look at that face. It's exactly the same. I'm doing this though. Her, I don't recognize. Her. Everlasting Summer. Great game. Amazing game. Such a good story. I felt it. In my... I don't know. I was already dark. It was already dark when I found myself in the front of a music club I'd occasionally visit to see the local underground bands. That makes sense then. She was playing the guitar. She was trying to be a rock star. But now she's in Japan instead of Soviet Russia. But I guess both is in the 80s, so it makes sense. If daytime in Tokyo still felt as warm as in summer, the evenings were getting increasingly colder. I wrapped myself more tightly in my denim jacket and shivered. The house was some distance from the club, so it made sense to go in and warm up. Oh, I need something to drink. 2 seconds, boys. The inside of the club was pretty crowded. Cigarette smoke hung heavy, and the air was saturated with spicy aromas of beer, sake, whiskey, plus God knows what else. Frankly, drinking hadn't been on my to-do list for the day, but this was too much to pass up. I got a beer from the bar and squeezed myself closer to the stage. The first band was playing some basic heavy metal. Japanese bands that played this kind of music didn't try to reinvent the wheel, happy to copy the Western masters. Some did it better than others. This band was only so-so, which is why the majority of the audience was occupied with anything and everything except listening to the music. The unfortunate metalheads couldn't possibly not have noticed, and by the end had given up, just trying not to make complete fools of themselves. That's actually kind of sad. Then again, who was I to judge? I couldn't play my bass even at their level. The next band was dressed in 70s fashion, sure sign that some old school rock was to follow. So I went off to wander the club. Although I would come here from time to time, I'd never made any friends. Usually I just stood around by myself guzzling beer. It was pointless to accept international stars here. What? It was pointless to expect I'm a retard. International stars here, and I only cared about the local bands so far as they helped me while away yet another boring evening. I remembered how I brought Catherine here once, although she hadn't liked it at all. Kimitsu meanwhile refused to go to concert at all for some reason. A young couple was cuddling in the corner. I watched them for a good while and suddenly felt revulsion. No, that won't do, I told myself. Tonight at least, I'm going to relax. I dashed to the bar, downed 3 shots of whiskey, picked up another beer, and headed back into the crowd. This time, at a far less steady gait. The old parts had finished playing, and the stage was now occupied by some glam rockers tuning their instruments. Come on, let's get rocking, I yelled. A guy standing near me glanced my way and said, "We're gonna rock, alright, don't you worry." What are you, playing tour? Sure am. And why aren't you on stage? You're all busy tuning. I don't need any tuning. I'm always tuned. He adjusted his sunglasses. Why was he wearing them indoors? See you. Ooh. It's, clearly a Dane. I'm joking. Calm down. Or am I? That's the question. With that, the guy disappeared into the dressing room. The lights dimmed and the speakers erupted with the first guitar chords. Hi everybody, we're set. Feels set. Feels set. What the fuck? Are they supporting? Uh-oh. A familiar voice came over the microphone. A bright light beamed down from the rafters. Wait, isn't that Ellie? Oh, this is the guy. He's playing the Oh, that makes sense. And this looks kind of like Ellie, doesn't it? Standing center stage in a rather unusual outfit was Ellie in a guitar in hand. Yeah, I was right. Standing then, singing and playing. Now, this I was not ready for, I said out loud, but no one could hear me over the thundering music. Yesterday's episode in the old music classroom came right back to me. Had the money driven her insane? I could understand learning music on the side, but this here? I listened more intently. They were actually pretty good. No wonder they'd been asked to headline. They're actually singing. In English? The crowd clearly took well to the music too. As the first song ended, Ellie shouted, "Thank you," into the mic and surveyed the audience, lingering on me for a second. Did she spot me? Judging by the surprise and even embarrassment on her face, she did. So what? Did she really think no one would find out about her nighttime transformation from perfect student and lady into the queen of Tokyo's glam rock scene? Hehehe. I chuckled. Keyboardist. Fell for her. Where did you come from? That weird kid, the keyboardist, was feels set, was standing next to me again. You were just up on stage. It's going to take some effort. Look, I haven't. We just go to the same school and sort of know each other. Oh, is that so? His eyes flash from behind his sunglasses. Did I give him another voice? I kind of want to give him like... No, I'm not. What kind of dumb name is that anyway? Setfield. It's pronounced Setfields. Yeah. Isn't that how... Fuck you. Like an anime robot, you know. I looked at him skeptically. It's to attract fans. It's the jam-packed club floor was an indication. That feels didn't lag for fans, at least not around here. The crowd was getting hyped up in anticipation of the next song. An instant later, the guy I'd been talking to was back on stage behind his instrument. They were playing some kind of ballad. Ellie kept shooting angry looks my way. Of course I would hear, just so I could distract her from her performance. Still, she did have a nice voice and played well too. Maybe she had a gift, but even so, to get this far, with all her other obligations and responsibilities as the scion of a respected family. Time is finite after all. I had no obligations, no responsibilities, and yet all I learned to play were 2 or 3 songs from taps. I suddenly felt a surge of respect for Ellie and backed away from the stage so as to not embarrass her further. I leaned back against the wall where she couldn't see me. She doesn't do as well without you, Anger imparts strength. What the hell? You guys are playing now, as in right now. Right now, there's a solo. This kid was starting to get to me, so I went back to stand near the stage. Seeing me, Ellie fumbled with her strings, a metallic twang rolling out of from the strings. Were her fans and servants going to lynch me now? But she quickly recovered and carried on playing as though nothing had happened. But once the song was over and before the next one began, Ellie softly shook her finger at me from the stage. Now that was just ridiculous. How was that my fault? Was she obsessed or what? I made a point of not looking at her, focusing my attention on the other members of Setfields. The bassist looked fairly ordinary, almost to a fault. Considering the band's style, I'd have expected edgier attire. Still, he was better at it than I was. How long would it have taken me to be able to play his part as cleanly? Maybe a million years, I don't know, motherfucker. I couldn't make out the drummer's features behind his equipment, and unfortunately, I'd already met the keyboardist. That turned out to be their last song. The audience demanded an encore, but the band quickly disappeared off stage. Maybe they didn't have a particularly large repertoire. And what was I going to do next? On one hand, I wanted to talk to Ellie and tell her that I liked her music. On the other, wouldn't that sound like a trite compliment? Besides, she was clearly not happy to see me at her concert. Yeah, maybe you should just leave her alone. While I contemplated, the crowd began to disperse and still that feels hadn't emerged from the dressing room. They must have left through the back door. Oh well, I didn't have much to say to her anyway. Still, I was grateful to Ellie. Her music had allowed me to escape my problems, if only briefly. The club was almost empty now, but I remained frozen in the middle of the dance floor, immersed in my own thoughts. Usually I would leave before the end of a concert in high spirits rather than hang around for a bit of aftertaste for fun's conclusion. Yeah, but he was hoping to see Ellie. That little... Yes! Either it had gotten warmer outside or the alcohol was warming me up. Somehow, I made it home in no time at all. I was sprinting like a motherfucker. I was using bolting out of this hoe. Another note from Himitsu rested on the doorstep. Surely this time she would have let herself in with her key, since I hadn't bolted the door from the inside. She could have made dinner and waited for me, like she'd done the day before. But the note made it clear that I couldn't even begin to count on it. What did she think, that I was just out having fun? The note the mysteries, the man shadowing me. Just because I couldn't tell her all about that stuff didn't mean I didn't want to. So I'd gone to a concert. What did it matter? A guy had to enjoy some culture once in a while. Of course, none of this was Himitsu's fault. I was just tired of her incessant, misplaced worrying. I'd start to feel like I was in a cage when I was around her. Children usually become more independent as they age, but Himitsu had essentially replaced my deceased parents, and little had actually changed in my life. But to take all this for granted, did I really feel no gratitude towards her? Judging by the note, she wasn't just upset but hurt too. Maybe I could at least call her. I didn't need to give any details, just tell her that everything was okay. I could of course stop by her place, but it was already late. I reeked of alcohol and a phone call was enough in this situation. I dialed the phone number I've known since childhood. Almost immediately, her voice came over the line. Hello? Nico-kun? Just about what I expected. Hi, sorry I disappeared today. Silence on the other end. You wouldn't believe me if I told you I had things to do, would you? Would you? I sighed heavily. I heard you were hiding something from me. If I was, that would be a good reason for it. But I'm not hiding anything. Haha. The inane laugh was meant to diffuse the situation. You know I'm always here for you. If anything, you know I'm always here for you. If anything happens. Okay, I'll see you at school tomorrow. Good night. Good night. I hung up and paused to think. What if I told her everything? I doubted Himitsu could help me in any way, but at least I wouldn't have to shoulder my problems alone. I was gazing at the phone and was just about to head back to bed when it rang. Himitsu again? Did she forget to say something? Yeah, hi. I started automatically. Seriously, who else would call me this late? Who else would call me? Period.
Nikolai-kun.
But I was wrong. It was Ichinose-san. Ichinose-san? I'm listening.
Nikolai-kun, I thought hard about whether to call you. After all, I did tell you this morning to keep out of this business, but I owe much to your father. You see, and since he's no longer with us, the least I can do is repay my debt to his son.
I simply didn't know what to say.
Are you listening to me?
Yes, absolutely. I'm all ears.
I don't know all that much myself, nor did your father. I suspect, but there is a person. Write this down. No, memorize it. His name is Akira Shinji. He used to work with your father and I, but he was laid off. He now owns a little restaurant somewhere on the waterfront.
Ichinose felt silent for a moment, then continued hastily.
Nikolai, I don't know if you're in any danger, but please be careful.
Ichinose-san, which waterfront exactly? There's so many in Tokyo. The name is pretty common too.
I can't. I have to go. Take care of yourself.
He hung up. He was clearly afraid of something. Afraid, yes. But he still called and warned me, and even gave me a clue. Although the name alone might not end up being enough, for some reason I felt no fear at that moment, more like reckless excitement and boldness. Probably owing to the quantity of alcohol consumed earlier. Probably. The second I got off the call with Ichinose, I felt incredibly sleepy. I barely made it to the bed before crashing. The 10th of September, 1987. I woke up early with a headache, with dry horrors and a terrible feeling of a meaningless existence. Good thing I always had aspirin in my medical kit. Then again, that was the only thing in there in the first place. After washing the pill down with a couple glasses of cold water, I figured that yesterday didn't really end too badly. At least today I hadn't slept in all the way to lunchtime. The memories started to return slowly. Vicious and heavy, they surfaced in my mind, bringing with them a tugging unease. I suddenly felt uncomfortable, alone in this giant empty house. I definitely needed to go to school. At this rate, I might really get myself expelled. It wasn't about my attendance, of course. I just desperately wanted to be among other people. I stepped out onto the street, the chilly wind immediately chasing away the last remnants of my hangover. It was still too early even for Himitsu. Oh well, we talked yesterday. Although the early part seemed to only apply to me, life in Tokyo was already in full swing. The office workers were on their way to work, clad in identical snow-white shirts. Grocery stores and all kinds of shops were opening up. Cheerful old women were the grocery stores and all kinds of shops were opening up. Cheerful old women were striking up conversation with each other. I was walking down the street, enjoying life. I'd never noticed before that small things like these made the world a much more attractive place than I thought. Could anything really go wrong? Fearing for my own safety, even my own life, made me realize I wasn't ready to change anything yet. Just up and return to the USSR? No, that was absurd. It was the rambling of a drunken teenager. But what was I supposed to do then? Fight? Here and now? Or just go with the flow? After all, there was no way a life as wonderful as this could be senselessly cruel at the same time, was there? The world turned its friendly, smiling face to me and my stomach responded with a friendly rumble. And to think that... What? And to think that when morning had started, even the thought of food made me want to puke. I entered a small restaurant and happily ate a bowl of ramen. All my worries faded into the background and hope glimmered in the distance. I was just getting all worked up about nothing. There was nothing scary really going on. For a year and a half, I'd been living as if in anabiosis. So now every little thing seemed like a problem of galactic proportions. If something really did happen to me, for example, if I received a visit from the police, I'd end up having a heart attack. I just needed to calm down, wait it out, and all my problems would resolve themselves. And if not, I'd deal with them as they came. Yeah, good. Once I got to school, I was swept up in a crowd of students. I spent a good half an hour in the ramen shop, and it wasn't as early in the morning by then. Japanese, Americans, French, Russians. Sometimes it seems to me that my school was a little too international. It was a good thing, though. I didn't feel as an alien among them as, for instance, sitting at a narrow counter on a low chair in a typical Japanese snack bar. Several guys shook my hand on the run. Some girl even flashed me a smile. I recalled being in the same class as the girl last year, but wouldn't be able to remember her name even if my life depended on it. I was close to saying I was happy, but... At the lockers, I ran into Catherine. Hi. Fuck, I forgot her... What a fucking voice. You're early today. She gave an unexpectedly polite response. Yeah, I skipped yesterday. Can't keep ditching school forever. Decided to get yourself together? Really? Catherine looked at me wide-eyed and frowned. Oh, I see. She had the smile on her lips again. Look at this. She looks so sly. Stop being like that. That's a nice... No. Stop. I ignored it and said simply, yeah, you know, so much has happened lately. I may have been feeling fine, but I couldn't hide my swollen face, especially not from Catherine. Well, so oh, enough already. What are you staring at me for? You know it all. Emotions changed quickly on Catherine's face. The surprise gave way to indifference. She lost interest. That's not what I... Or maybe that too. I don't want to fight anymore. I just think you have to understand my reaction. Put yourself in my shoes or something. What are you even talking about? Catherine asked nonchalantly. About everything. Don't pretend you don't understand. Don't understand what? I didn't even know how to talk to her anymore. Alright. You want me to understand? I do now. Oh, here we go again. Is that your way of mocking me? Why would I be mocking you? Well, that's what I should be asking you. First you come back for no reason, then you transfer into my class and pretend like that's how it should be. Show at least a morsel of respect. What should I respect you for? I couldn't hear Catherine. I had already forgotten to even think about yesterday's events. And what I've been thinking about this morning. Or just don't talk to me anymore. I'm tired of degrading myself for you, struggling to get you to at least treat me like a human. It looked like she wasn't ready for this kind of reaction. So make your choice. I turned around and ran up the stairs to the second floor.
Oh, hey, Nick. Where have you been?
Yosuke was as carefree as always. Drinking, I snarled.
Gotcha. You're not in the mood. Talk to you later then.
He responded sadly. Catherine entered the class almost immediately after me. There were still several minutes left until the bell, and they dragged on tormentingly slowly. I was a little sad. Did you see the frown on Kyosuke's face? I feel bad for him now. It'll be easier doing the lesson. It'll be easier, I kept telling myself. Meanwhile, Catherine wasn't paying any attention to me at all. No, this was crossing the line now. It had stopped being mockery and turned into outright cruelty. Had she crashed head first riding a bike in those United States of hers? Right into the Grand Canyon? The bell finally rang. During the lesson, I could only think about Catherine, a burning to the point of shuddering desire to turn around and look at her swelling in my chest. I couldn't manage to distract myself with anything. Yesterday's conversation with Ichinose and the mysterious thread hanging over my head seemed to have suddenly lost all meaning. A single thought was pulsating in my head, that I needed to sort out my relationship with her once and for all. I could figure out if I still loved her or not later, and now I needed to what? Ah, god damn it, I can't do this anymore. With a loud thud, I hit the desk with my forehead.
Onokikon, are you alright?
I heard muffled laughter and whispers. Couldn't be better, Sensei, just checking if there's anything in my head. The teacher didn't even raise an eyebrow. He'd seen a lot working at this school.
Maybe you should go to the doctor.
No, I'm telling you, I'm fine.
Well, do what you want. Just don't interfere with the lesson.
After that circus performance, I felt a bit better. Surprisingly, the planet kept spinning, paying no attention to my problems. Nice. The bell for break rang. I was approached by Michael. It seemed like he wasn't going to start a conversation, but for some reason he looked me over intently. What is it? I finally asked. You're not yourself today. Is it because of yesterday? Yesterday? How did he know? I mean, the conversation in the cafe. Oh yeah, right, the cafe. No, it's not about that. Everything's fine, or will be, even if it isn't now. Without even turning her head, Catherine walked past us. I stared after her and must have made quite a face. I see. Michael said what? Dissipational. Okay, fuck that shit. What do you see? I was getting worked up again. Are all of you Americans like this? Like what? Like this, completely disregarding of other people. Poking your nose in others' business. Insensitive, cold, and cruel. I think you're talking about someone specific right now. The gritting of my teeth must have been audible to the whole class. You know what, Misha? Fuck you. Got it? Fuck you to hell. Last thing I need are your questions and observations. Don't meddle in other people's life. Mind your own. I stood up, looked at him, looked him up and down, but Michael didn't look away. Then I pushed him away with my shoulder and left the room. Good God, what the hell was I doing? Just lashing out at one of the few people who still at least talked to me. Maybe he wanted to help. After all, Michael's no Kioske. The latter would immediately start to run around, dolefully wringing his hands, and what good would that make? Sometimes it really is better to look at a situation with a cool head. I definitely had to apologize to him, but later. I just wanted to switch gears and get away from the classroom. To be alone, or at least with someone who wouldn't pry into my soul. With Himitsu, for example. Yeah, right, as if she wouldn't. Although, if she were to see my present condition, Himitsu would probably understand. So.
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Go to the roof or go to Himitsu?
I'm going to Himitsu. He's so nice. I feel bad every time, like. Because. Yeah, I feel bad for her so because the way he's treating her. I don't know. No, not the way he's ungrateful, I guess. I don't know. Who if not her? Who else could I rely on? I hesitated a while in front of the door. Of course everyone in there knew me. But that's probably the reason why they also drew completely incorrect conclusions. Himitsu was sitting in her place, reading a magazine of some kind. Hi.
Nico-kun.
Sorry about yesterday,
It's okay. You're alright, aren't you?
seemed to be still kicking. I demonstratively felt myself all over. Himitsu gave me a questioning look. I dropped by because, you know, it's boring in our class. Kyosuke still tells his story about manga and anime, nothing interesting besides that.
I'm glad you're here.
And how are you doing? There was absolutely nothing to talk about. Seen Catherine already? But that didn't mean I should have chosen the worst possible topic. But Himitsu replied calmly.
Just briefly in a hallway.
I see. And how is she?
Don't you know?
Me? How would I know if she doesn't talk to me? I mean, she does, but not about that. Himitsu's expression grew sad. I can't make sense of her. It's like she's conducting some goddamn psychological experiment on me. She wants to be the next Jung or something. I guess I was speaking much louder than would be appropriate. It distracted Himitsu's classmates, and they grew silent, staring at me. But by that point, I was too fired up and didn't realize how stupid I looked. What are you looking at? We have performances like this every day in my class. What, do I not look like a clown to you? Do I? Some guy, one on the sturdier side, took a couple steps towards me and tried to reach out his hand.
Senpai.
Don't touch me, I said quietly, casting a cold look at him.
Nico-kun.
Himitsu uttered, pain audible in her voice. What? I shouted. And at that moment I felt inexpressibly disgusted, revolted by my behavior. Ashamed in front of these students. Himitsu, Michael, and myself. What have I turned into? Was it about the note, the calls, the threats? No, it was about me. I quickly left the class, eyes cast down. My feet carried me away all on their own. I only stopped after I reached the school's old wing. But you can't run from yourself. Of course, most of all I wanted to run home. Close the doors, unplug the phone, crawl under a blanket and lay there for a week or so. Until the shame was gone. Until everyone had forgotten what I'd done. But that's not how it works. The planet really did keep spinning no matter what I thought of it. And another weird thing, it didn't revolve around me. Michael might have resented me. Some of Himitsu's classmates clearly thought I was an idiot. All that would be forgotten by tomorrow. And I'd keep working myself up, convinced that absolutely everyone in the whole fucking world was only occupied with thoughts about me. I would be hiding, remembering the stupid things I did, burning with shame over and over again. No, enough. I resolutely headed back to class. I'll start by apologizing to Michael. I was passing Himitsu's class when I heard a familiar voice coming from inside. It was Catherine. What was she doing there? The escapade I pulled a couple of minutes ago was immediately forgotten. Now I was only interested in their conversation. Ah, the spying on my... I remember this. Just a picture, actually. I don't really remember much that happened.
It's from the Spying on My Ex episode, from the demo.
I feel like something's changed in this. Or maybe it's just because it's like back in 2019, I believe. Oh my god, it's such a long time ago. I hid behind the door and listened carefully. Thank God for the thin walls of Japanese schools. It was also quite fortunate that Catherine occupied the desk closest to the door, even if it wasn't her class. That's the Catherine I knew. The students walking through the hallway gave me weird looks. I didn't mind. They couldn't make things any worse.
Not what you think.
I cut the end of a sentence.
No, I'm just glad you're back. Are you now? Well, if you want to search for hidden meanings in my every word, I'll leave you to it.
It didn't really sound like a conversation between old friends. I might have expected that. No, actually, should have expected that.
Don't pretend nothing happened. But nothing did happen, and hasn't been happening for the past year and a half. And even if we were pretending, we were good at it.
Himitsu wasn't talking very loudly, but suddenly went silent, gasping for air as if after a desperate scream.
Why now of all times? If it was up to me, I would never have returned here. How convenient for you. You leave when you're not most needed, and it's not your fault. You come back when you're not needed at all, and it's not your fault. And how are we to live now? Tell me.
I'd never expected a reaction like this from Himitsu. Well, sure, I'd known for a while that she was no longer the 8-year-old girl I had met when I still didn't know a single word of Japanese. In many ways, she was more mature than me. But to see someone close to you like that, I guess I just wasn't ready.
And what should I do? Tell me. Why in the world should I adjust myself to you? To him? To the two of you? For your life? For you? Life is so simple. Well, it sure is complicated for you. You couldn't even come and say hi, explain the situation properly, all because of your pride. Pride, you say?
Catherine smirked scornfully.
More like self-respect. You could use some yourself, acting like a what? Come on, tell me. How am I acting? The way you couldn't?
It was weird that none of Himitsu's classmates were paying attention to the two of them. This certainly didn't seem like a friendly conversation.
If only he knew the whole truth. Then tell him. I can't.
Catherine said quietly, so quietly I almost couldn't hear her.
Oh, but that's how it is? Then what do you intend to do next? You can't just ignore his feelings, can you? And what about my feelings? Has anyone thought about them?
Her feelings? What? But Catherine immediately continued.
I can't stand being near him. Then don't be. Free us from your presence. It'll be easier for everyone. Don't worry, I will. There's less than a year of school left. Yes, but for this entire year. Won't break you, I'm sure. You're just...
Oh, senpai. One of Himitsu's classmates called me out to me. I immediately broke into a run. Let's get the fuck out of here. No. Damn, Himitsu gets better and better. And Catherine gets worse and worse. Hope the girls didn't notice me. I ran back to my class, almost knocking down two students who were too slow to dodge me. I jumped behind my desk and tried to quickly catch my breath. But then I had completely forgotten about Michael. But what the ever-living hell was that? I could understand Himitsu worrying about me, about how Catherine's return might have affected me. But her tone, that wording, And what about Catherine himself? I can't stand being near him. If only he knew the entire truth. Whatever happened between us, I didn't think anything I'd done or said deserved being treated like this.
You're right, Nick.
Yes, everything's fine. I blurted out. Yuska gave me a somehow pathetic look and expressively glanced towards Michael, who was peacefully reading a book, paying no attention to his surroundings. Ah yeah, you know, a lot's happening. I really wanted him to understand.
Yeah, but still.
And Kyosuke was right. I very slowly stood up and approached Michael. So, nothing worthwhile would come to my head. Sorry I acted like that. It's just that things have been complicated recently. He closed the book and looked at me coldly. I understand. It's alright. No, I really didn't mean any harm. I just snapped. I'm telling you, I understand. Yeah, that was just like Michael. One thing in words and another in thoughts. Whatever. I certainly wasn't in any mood to try and prove anything to him. The bell rang. The lesson had been going for 5 minutes already, but Catherine was yet to return to the classroom. Oh my god. Stretched my fat body there. And to top it off, her things had disappeared too. I couldn't tell for sure if they were there when I returned. I just hadn't paid attention. Finally, the school day came to an end. I felt a pressing need to talk to Himitsu, even though I didn't really know what I would say. And what could I say? With everything that had happened today, I completely forgot about yesterday's conversation with Ichinos. And it gave me a lead to Himitsu, Catherine. But what about the note, the call? I had to find out. What was this all about, right? The decision seemed like it could seriously change my life from here on. To go to Himitsu, or try to solve the mystery of my father's past. Oh my god, this is actually a pretty difficult choice. I kinda wanna go to Himitsu. Apologize, all that kind of stuff. All that good stuff, right? But I also wanna look for answers, see what the fuck's been going on. But I couldn't just be skipping school again, could I? But would I? Fuck it. Maybe we can get Himitsu to help us look. Then we wouldn't be this lonely. Wasn't I too frequent a visitor in her class today? The guys were grinning at me as they left the class, the girls casting meaningful looks. Yeah, can't even visit my childhood friend without gossip starting up. But then Himitsu herself appeared. Noticing me, she grew flustered for a moment, probably because of the fit I'd thrown earlier. But the usual smile almost immediately lit up her face. Nico-kun. Hey, yeah, let's go home together. Sure. Himitsu was merrily strutting along the sidewalk, enjoying a warm autumn day. Can't I ask her if she wanna go with me down to the waterfront? Oh no, I'll work here. Meanwhile, I was gathering my thoughts, trying to decide on how to begin this difficult conversation. Have you talked to Katja already? You can't postpone death just by taking a deep breath. You've asked already. We've just seen each other briefly in a hallway. She flashed a cute smile and turned to me, and it seemed like her hair was ablaze with the bright rays of sun. I grew embarrassed and looked away. I want to say, I don't want you to think I was eavesdropping on purpose. It just turned out this way. Anyway, I heard you talking today. What do you mean, talking? Her expression didn't change. Could it really be that she didn't understand? With Catherine, I heard you were argue. I wanted to add about me, but stopped shortly. Ah, you mean that? We weren't arguing at all. We just haven't seen each other for a while. I'm so glad Kati-chan has returned. What? I even stopped in my tracks and stared dumbly at Himitsu. But I heard with my own ears. Do you tell me that wasn't an argument, a fight? Of course not. You just imagined it. Or was she sure, or so sure no one was eavesdropping on them? After all, it's impossible to lie so blatantly, looking the other person in the eyes. At least, Himitsu certainly couldn't. Well, alright. I had to agree. I couldn't accuse her of lying, could I? Then what were you talking about?
Nothing in particular, really. You know, girl talk.
Girl talk. It was just girl talk. That's nice. I didn't think you had anything in common. Anger flashed across Timitsu's face, and she didn't even try to hide it.
Why not? We haven't seen each other for a long time. What if I missed her too? I mean, we were friends.
He clarified, realizing she got carried away. Well, at least one of us is happy about her return. I smiled as genuinely as I could. Mitsu blushed and immediately changed the topic.
And how was your day?
Normal, I guess. Stopped by this ramen shop in the morning. You know, the one at the railroad.
Nickel-kun.
He pouted. What now?
You're eating nasty things again.
It's ramen, it's not nasty. Yeah, I agree. It's not nasty. Your words would make the owner cry so much he'd oversalt the ramen.
Fine, but you can't eat it all the time.
I don't. You could say I'm on a king's diet. Thanks to you, of course.
Of course.
He pinched my side. Hey, that hurt. I didn't even notice when the conversation changed to a normal course, and the two of us once again became almost like siblings. That's how it was supposed to be, right? Despite Catherine, no matter what. Alright, you had it coming. Oh, that picture, I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, it's just... He's doing the wife run, like they do in Finland. This is how you pick up women. Show me your best pickup line. This is how I find all my women. Sorry, I couldn't. Sorry. Look at this. It's just sprinting so fast. I love it. I love this picture. It's so good. I grabbed Timitsu, threw her over my shoulder, and ran down the street past dumbfounded people.
Nico-kun, let me down. Ah, what are you doing?
But I didn't give a damn about anything. The uptight Japanese decency, the tiredness of that I surprisingly wasn't feeling, Himitsu's fruitless attempts to break free. I felt alive.
Nico-kun,
She said quiet, and now as she stopped struggling. I stopped and let her down to the ground.
come on.
Himitsu grabbed the labels off my jacket and pressed herself to me.
Now my head is spinning.
Yeah, overdid it, I guess. But it was fun, right?
You wouldn't do this with Kati-chan.
She said, her head still cast down. Of course, she's heavier. What is that? What answer is that? Could you just be... I don't know. Oh my god. Oh. I love this game. I tried to laugh it off with a stupid joke. Well, let's go home. My attempted joke ended in immediate failure. The remaining way to the house, we only exchanged a couple meaningless phrases. Over the past few days, we'd been drifting further and further away, and this moment of closeness ended up being just a memory. Well, here we are. I guess I'll make dinner.
I guess I'll make dinner.
Mitchell looked like she was asking a store manager facing down the start of her shift. Nah, no need. I got things to do today. Gotta go to the bank. I immediately lied to escape my unnecessary questions. Although it didn't look like Himitsu was interested.
Alright, see you tomorrow then.
He smiled almost genuinely. I didn't respond, only watched her to the doors of her house. What the actual hell? I was overwhelmed by my own thoughts. Why did he say, what the actual hell? To get at least some kind of distraction, I was shooting pixel monsters on the TV screen and didn't even notice that as evening came. I was starving and all my thoughts were focused on food. I wish I could have had another bowl of that ramen. Hot, freshly made with delightfully tasty noodles, flavorful broth, pieces of meat, half an egg, herbs, spices, and everything nicest. Who could possibly resist that? I rushed to the hallway and had already put my boots on when the silence that enveloped the house was broken by the telephone. I wasn't going to answer. It had to be Himitsu. Her upset face appeared before my eyes. Not at least today she was going to let me be alone. I reluctantly picked up. Hello? After a long silence, a familiar voice sounded on the other end.
Nikolai, Ichino's speaking.
Father's old friend sounded agitated. I immediately remembered yesterday's conversation.
Nikolai, I'm calling about the conversation yesterday.
I'm listening.
I'm calling to say you shouldn't look for Akira.
Shouldn't? Why?
You didn't.
He stopped short. No, to be honest, I didn't really have the time.
Good. Then I've got news that he died.
Died? Happy children's voices came in from the street. The last rays of the autumn sun were pleasantly warm, and I was sweating bullets of hot, a cold sweat. Ichino's son. This isn't related to my father, is it? To his work?
No, not at all.
His voice was calming.
They say it was a heart attack. He wasn't a young man.
After a short silence, he added,
We all face it one day.
I'm very sorry.
Forget it. You didn't know him.
But still, if he was your friend, father's friend?
Well, I'm sorry that I can't help you anymore either.
What do you mean?
With your father's work, Akira was my only guess.
Don't mention it. You've already done everything you could.
If only I could do more.
The standard Japanese exchange of pleasantries had already started to tire me out. Anyway, Ichino's-san, if you remember something, I'd be happy to hear any information.
Of course. Good night.
He had to be lying, right? But why would you lie about a man's death if he didn't die? What if I were to rush out looking for him and end up finding this Akira? In that case, the lie would have had the opposite effect. No, it was probably just a dead end. If I wanted to unravel this whole situation, I'd have to try another approach from the beginning. When I left the ramen shop, the lights of the distant stars were already shining bright in the sky. Like a diamond. Like small lanterns hanging high above the clouds. I recall stars in Russia being the brightest at the end of August. Cold, damp wind blew from the ocean. I shuddered and my heart felt unbelievably heavy. Maybe somewhere in the very center of Tokyo, the nightlife was still boiling, but my district usually fell asleep with twilight. The streets grew empty, with only stragglers hurrying home, where they were awaited by a loving family and a hot dinner, completely unlike me and my ramen. If only I hadn't had a fight with Himitsu today. Could you really call that a fight? No yelling, no dish breaking, not even any face punching. Only strange silence, unspoken words, and indecision. Yeah, exactly. Indecision. I just didn't know how I felt about her. Especially now, after Catherine had returned. Accepting her love would be the easiest option, but wouldn't I only hurt both of us even more then? Would these feelings end up genuine, or would I just swap her from a housemate to a lover? And in the end, wait one. And in the end, Himitsu would simply end up hating me, as well as herself. Ah, it was Himitsu. I'm a retard. Sorry, boys, I'm a retard. But rational thinking is something to attempt with a clear mind. The empty house met me with a ringing silence and the cold of an autumn night. For a long while, I stood next to the phone, not thinking about anything in particular. No, I most definitely wasn't going to call anyone. I was waiting for them to call me. The clock hands were nearing midnight. I looked outside. but her windows were dark. Why do I always do this? First push people away, then agonize over it. Finally, my tiredness ceased. I know that feeling way too well, Nikolai. Finally, my tiredness seized me and turned out to be the deliverance I craved. I stretched out on the bed, closed my eyes, and immediately plunged into the pleasant state when you know you are about to fall asleep. 11th September 1987.
Get up!
Someone's voice was ringing in my head. I felt like I was being lobotomized.
Get up, Nikokon, get up!
Oh wait. I adultly opened my right eye. You know what? This is it for this episode, boys. Thanks for watching this time. Remember to like, subscribe, watch my other videos on the channel. Leave a like, leave a comment telling me if you wanna do the same pickup trick as Nikolai. And if you did it work or did you go to prison? Tell me in the comments. And I'll see you again next time. Most likely tomorrow.